Hello everyone, and we continue building BudgetClick 2026 in public. This is an offline first application with several clients, multi-client application without any backend. The only backend component will be S3, AWS S3, storage, extremely cheap, and it will be used only for data synchronization between the clients. In the last episode, we finished building the schema generator, and the next steps would be to let's check our roadmap. Schema generation, the next step would be to build the process. We already scratched it a little bit, we initialized the build process. The next step would be generate validators, implement test, and build the production desktop running environment. So you see that those three parts are already marked done, and this is because I finished it after the episode and before this episode, and now I would like to introduce you into what has changed after the last episode. Let's open the diffs. You see that there is a bunch of commits, update roadmap, and this is the last commit after the add build pipeline. The add build pipeline commit was the last in the last episode, and update roadmap is just a tiny update. So I added this step, build the production desktop, to the roadmap, and I actually created this production desktop running environment in desktop. So you see that it's pretty simple. The client is actually just a bunch of static files which is handled by a simple web server. In our case, the server is Nginx. We added this Docker file which will build Nginx Alpine image and copy all the dist files to Nginx serving directory, HTML directory, which it uses to serve the files, and we expose it. And when we run it, we can access the application on the port 8080. We also added the Docker ignore so that Docker doesn't copy those files to the container file system. We updated package JSON to add these commands: Docker build client and Docker run client, and later we also added this to the run tasks: Docker run client, Docker build client, and later in the next step we also added a Docker test client, because when we build and run the client in the Docker container, we want to test whether it works or not. So we added a smoke test, and this is the next commit. We added the smoke test, and you see that we added the tasks here, the new Docker related tasks: build, run, and test. We added the same task to the package JSON, and this is the test, the actual test. What it actually does is simple. It only starts the Docker container, then waits for the server to start, then it just says that startup is passed, or throws an error for this one: unexpected status, unexpected response. Good. The next step in our roadmap is the validator. We generated the schemas, and the schemas are to be used in the validators. So the validators are generated from the schemas using a JV package. This is this one, AJV package. This is a schema validator, very useful. you see that there's 357 million downloads per week, so that's a pretty popular schema validator, and it's really important for TypeScript based products. So let's go through the commit quickly. So I updated the roadmap, and you see that I marked those as done. I also updated the settings. I forgot to update it last time. We changed the settings into config and added settings for the user settings. Updated the validation step. We will need to update both config and settings. Package JSON, you see that I added AGV and removed unused package. And this is the generate schemas script updated. So now we use this script not only to generate the schemas, but also generate the validators from the generated schemas. So if we look at the main function, so the schema generation are unchanged, almost minor fixes, and the validation step added. So that's basically all. And the validation generation does the following. It works, well, first of all, it removes all the files from the generated validators. We have them here, client, source, validators, and we have validators and default directory. So all the generated validators will be in default, and the validators directory will be used for custom validators, which will maybe use the default validators. So the default validators are not committed to the repository. You see that they are ignored, git ignored, because the same way as schemas are ignored, because they are deterministically defined by types, and this script wouldn't need to keep them in the repository. We only need to keep types and the script in the repository, and those files are generated by the types and the generate schemas script. So then it works. First of all, it removes all the files, then it reads all the schema files from the schemas directory, and then it will just go and take every schema and use AGV compile to build the validator code. And then we'll write this code to the files. The files are pure JavaScript, not TypeScript, because we actually don't need TypeScript here, because TypeScript is used only during the development stage and not used during the runtime. And we need these files only during the runtime. We are not going to edit those files. And this is basically it. Let's check git ignore. You see that I added validators default, all the JavaScript files to git ignore, and we keep this file to keep the directory in the repository. The last thing I did after the episode was a minor update of AI Dev Constitution. We instruct AI not to stack arguments one below another. So if we call a function like this, all the arguments should be in one line, and same if we define a function, then the arguments should be also defined in one line. So that's basically it. And for the next step, let's check out roadmap. Here it is. For the next step, we need to load config JSON and settings JSON. Then we have to validate them and maintain the global constants. But before that, I would like to test the validator, and we will do that together with this step. loading config JSON and settings JSON. Let's open a new chat and let's start typing implement loading of config JSON. We need the app startup. App startup will be main.ts config load config ts. Use validators to validate config JSON. A test validation config validation to our tests which are run during the build. Alright, now let's collect all those files which we will need. Types config main TypeScript. Let's have app view as well. Validators index.js and config, and the config JSON. Copy, concat the files. The file concatenated files are here. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Alright, the files are implemented. Alright, so the files are created. This main ts now loads the config, and load config is here. It throws an error if we don't find the file, and it also throws an error if the config is invalid. Let's try to run this. F1 run task and run client. Okay, the client is good. Let's try to break JSON. Let's, for example, remove this, and this one is required. Let's check the type. Config. Yeah, this is required. Migration version, and I've just removed the migration version. Let's try to rerun the application. Let's close it and run again. Okay, it doesn't throw the error for a reason. Let's check if the config is actually loaded. So let's it doesn't seem to do anything. Okay, so it loads the client, but the client doesn't give us any hints, any errors. Let's say, will main ever talk to us? Console log. No, it doesn't talk. Interesting, why? Let's check again. Package JSON, run, build, test, VS Code, tasks. First of all, there's a problem here. Run client pnpm def generate schemas. Okay, create app. Let's see what the application says. Yeah, so it outputs everything right here to the not to the console, but to the, yes, of course, because this is the client-side application. So all the errors are here. Yeah, so this is where we should check for the errors. That is really nice. Okay, starting application. Yeah, that's good. it does start the application, and it also throws an error: invalid config JSON and must have required property migration version. That's good. Now let's fix the config. Control S, reload. Good. Now it works. So the next step would be to store the config. Let's commit the changes. We fixed the tasks, we fixed the config, we updated the, let's remove this, we don't need this, and load config, let's remove the spacer. Then the load config, let's also remove the spacers. I don't use them. In our institution, load config JSON. Commit it. Let's close all the tabs. And now we need to persist the config. Great, done. Let's persist the config. We need to implement the state of the application, which will be globally accessible. It should also be reactive, which means that it should trigger the changing of the state, should trigger the application to re-render all the dependent views and data structures. Let's first sketch it out. Okay, ChatGPT supposed the structure. So first add the directory, and then add state, index, and later we can add modules for config, for settings, for sessions, for sync, database, and so on. The initial state will be like this. We will need the type. So let's first instruct ChatGPT. Client state ts. That's the main. We will also need the types, state, upstate, let's say upstate, main type, and main type and other types, modules, config, the config module, other module imported in main, other modules will be added later. Config is immutable. Main exporter, so the state will be the main exporter, and well, actually it will not be. The index will be the main exporter, and state will contain utility functions, initializing, initialization, American style initialization, update, etc. Anything we need, so that modules use the same else do we need? So ChatGPT suggests that we change the data structure, the directory structure into this. It would add modules. Let's immediately reflect on that. Config is one of the modules in state modules. Responsibilities app state, the type will be here. Great. Reactive state, the reactive singleton and generic helpers. Okay, let's keep it for now. Config TS, only config specific operations. Good. Index, just re-export. Okay, index exports only global state, no nested states modules. One thing I'd add, I would expose getters, not a state object itself. Okay, getters are fine, not the objects themselves. What else? Getters, good. We will also need to add this add character instead of using the relative path imports. We will change this to using this add path. Immutability, good, but let's make the utility initializer for immutable state modules or objects. We might use it in future for other state objects. Good. For now, use it for the state modules config ts. Good. Right. Now provide the files. Please use import path instead of relative. Okay, so ChatGPT created the files for us. Let me quickly copy and paste all those files to the working directory. Alright, the files I created. Let's try to run and see what happens. We also need to update the load config. Okay, upstate. Now we need to update the load config. Okay, so I'm asking the ChatGPT to update the load config function, and I'm asking ChatGPT whether it's good to initialize the state right away on the startup, or is it better to load the data first and then initialize the state with all the data in hand. Okay, it suggests that it would initialize the state first and then update it with the loaded data. So that way we initialize the state first and then we load config, load settings, and anything else we will need to add. So that way the main function will stay very simple. So we will first initialize the state, then await and load all the data. So let's add, okay, so then update all the files to to load, to init the state and load the config into the state. Alright, let me quickly update the files. Alright, all the files are updated. Let's check and see what it does. Let's see our application. Okay, so we have an error here. Let me quickly check what's wrong with it. Alright, this issue is fixed. We had to let tsconfig and voidconfig know that we are using this alias. So this alias is fixed. Let's commit those changes. Use add alias for imports. If this one is fixed, package JSON, yeah, we'll also need to add this to our commit. So let's continue and let's see what how our state is doing. So index looks like this, state looks like this, reactive, initialize state, get state, initialize immutable state, initializer, object freeze, good. Config looks like this, so we initialize config, immutable state, get config. Do we actually need the get config? Let's check. State, get state, app state. This is the type. Config. Okay, so this the yeah, exactly. This is exactly like we wanted to have. Let's check our main, yeah, load config, and let's check what the state looks like. Get state. This is our state. This is a PostgreSQL object, and this is our config. So we have successfully loaded the config. We have successfully implemented the state. Let's commit all those changes. But before that, let's add a simple test. Let's add a simple test, and we also let's also add one thing to the roadmap. We will need the log level, and we will need the log wrapper, which will understand the log levels. Let's update our documentation, docs, roadmap. Okay, so this thing is done. This thing is done. Yes, we do validate global constants. This is done. State upstate with the frozen immutable object. And let's also add one little thing, logger with log levels. Let's address this next in our roadmap. Yeah, the next part will be the next part after that will be encryption. This is a big part, and I want to dedicate another episode to this part, to this step. Let's finish today with settings. Let's also address user settings. So we've just done the config, and let's address the user settings. And the next step, we will add the logger. Well, actually, first let's do the logger, and then let's finish the settings. So 2 more steps for this episode, and now let's just commit this load config, and actually not load config, create state implement app state, and init state config. Great. Do we need to test anything? I don't think that we need to test whether this config is loaded. Well, actually, maybe yes, we do. Do we need to test that the config is loaded? We need to write a test in config in client tests and add it to client tests index ts, and let's give it the index ts tests if we have it, actually, because I'm not sure if we have it. Tests, no, we don't have the tests. Okay, let's just go. All right, so ChatGPT suggests that we should do the test, and we need to, well, first of all, let's create this file. Let's also create the test runner. Okay, so now let's run it, and I would also like let's also test the application start up from the main ts. Config must exist and must be immutable. Or should we add test specifically for state? Okay, so ChatGPT doesn't want to test main TS. Okay, so then let's not test it. I don't want to overcomplicate the files and the scripts and the application structure right now. So let's keep it simple. It wants to split tests by responsibility. So schema validation, validation of the state, and config state module and generic state utilities. Okay, good. Let's go with your suggestion. Do not test main. Add startup ts in app init, or just init ts next to main ts. it will init the app and all the states. Keep the tests minimal. We need to make sure that the app initializes with config and with all the states needed, because without the config the app will not work. Provide all the file changes. One more thing I want to add is a little bit of style. So I will add the constitution here, and do not use separation lines inside blocks, and use alias for imports. And let's also add the constitution. Alright, so it created all the files for us. Let me quickly update the files code in the work directory. Alright, now let's run the tests. How to run the tests? What about adding script? Alright, so we will add a script to the root package, test client. Let's just copy and paste all this. And now let's just run this test and see if it works. We have a bunch of errors here. Alright, so I have fixed all the tests, and now the test should run. Let's run the tests and see. Yeah, the tests are passed, and I have refactored the directory structure, so now we will have end-to-end tests in one directory, and all the unit tests will be in the unit directory. I also added vtest config, which will tell the vtest where to look for the tests, and then it will just go and check every file with this pattern naming pattern, and will run the tests. And we have currently the initialization test, which will check whether the config is in the state and whether the object is frozen or not. We actually need to update this because I don't want get config to be here. Okay, let's keep it for now. Let's keep it for now here. Let's just add a new test that the state also has the config. Add test that config is in the state. And while it's working, then another test is config. So we're testing the config we initialize the config, we actually do the same test, and well, that's basically the same test, and yeah, so that's basically all we do. Yeah, so those tests are almost the same, but this test checks the config, and this init test checks the initialization. So the application should be initialized. And what's the difference? Initialize state, initialize application. So it initializes application, and in this case it doesn't initialize the application. Okay, let's check what it says. I would add one more assertion that verifies that config is actually stored in the global state, not only accessible via Git. So let's just copy and paste this to initialization test. Let's copy this. Let's run the tests again. Good. So the tests are done, completed. So let's commit all this. What we've done, we've added the initialization. We have updated the main application. We added initialization to a separate file, and removed the loading config from the main application. We updated the loading config, and it doesn't initialize the config in the state anymore. Instead, it's done here in the init. Okay, so I think it's all good to commit. Let's think of a good name. Okay, add initialization, add app init tests, and config load tests. Okay, so that will be all for this episode. I wanted to add user settings, but I think that I will do that in the next session, or maybe I will do it in between the sessions. I will check that later. So this is the roadmap. Let's check again. Oh yeah, we also want to add the logger. I think that we can actually do this right now. The settings will also be done next. Let's add this load settings, load the user settings, add the view, persist the user settings in the browser memory. Yeah, validate the settings, loaded settings as well. Let's now quickly build the logger with log levels. Well, first of all, let's update the roadmap. And now let's build the logger. So let's show the well, first of all, let's add the constitution. We need okay, let's use the package JSON, tsconfig, void config, and we also need source. Let's do this, and this. Let's add state, for example, just to give some sense of the code to ChatGPT. Let's get all those files content. It's here. Copy, create a new chat, create a logger with log levels, which are set up in the settings, in the app settings. Do we actually need to set them up in the settings? Maybe we need to set them up somewhere else. Well, let's set them up in the settings for the moment. In the future, we'll maybe we'll add some business logic to separate the settings between the environment. For example, in the development environment, we will need one log level, and for another environment, we will need another log level. Suggest a way to use the low or minimal or error log level for built environments. Alright, so ChatGPT has generated some of the files for us. So let's first create a type and other files as well. Alright, so all files are copied, and I see that the errors now in the application startup. So let's quickly go through the changes which I've made. So first of all, I added this file. This is the main logger functionality. It basically checks the current log level. So we have it here. This log level is a variable, and we check the log levels, which is in the type, and this is where we have the log levels: error, warning, info, or debug. The error is the lowest level, then warning, then info, then debug. And we can set the logger level in config. For example, in our case, it will be the lowest level, debug, and we also updated the type, the config type. We added the log level here. What else did we do? We also updated initialization. In the initialization, we get the log level from the environment. If it's a dev environment, then we use the config log level. Otherwise, we fall back to the error level, which will be for the production environment. And then we initialize logger, and the logger initialization just sets the log level. So it only does this and nothing else. Then we have the logger wrapper. This logger wrapper will simply output the errors depending on the level. So if we are on the debug level, for example, then the log level should be debug or lower. So if it's info or debug or warning or error, it will show the error, otherwise not. So the current level should be less than the current log, less or equal to the current log level. Alright, in the main we also replaced the console log. There was the console log. Instead of that, we implemented this logger error. Yeah, good, very well. Let's commit all this. We also need to check one thing before committing. We need to make sure that our initialization understands this environment. So let's check this with, another thing, we will need to rebuild the schemas and validators. So let's just do this, rebuild the schemas and validators, generate schemas. It will rebuild the schemas and validators, and in the meanwhile, let's check with ChatGPT how to make sure that this environment variable is present. Make sure that is present. Alright, so ChatGPT says that we can simply check that variable by logging it out. So console log these variables. Let's try and do this in the main, or maybe in the init, exactly where it's used. Let's do this. We also have an error here. So after the generation of the schemas, we still have the error, log level must be the number, and that's true because here we have in the types, okay, this is I see that it's wrong. Okay, so in the so we can actually move this logger to the root. We don't need to keep it in the directory because directory has only one file. So let's just move it to logger. Types logger. Okay, those are the numbers. So if we want debug level, then we will need to use number 3, which is debug. And let's see if this changes. Yeah, so now it works. Debug level, and we also see the console output. So first of all, we have all the environment variables of Vite. So we have the development true, mode development, prod false, SSR false. Yeah, so true, false, development. And now let's commit all this. I think it's all good. Logger init. Yeah, everything is updated except for this. Let's check again if everything is fine. We can commit the changes, add logger. And the last thing before wrapping up, let's build our application, run task, build client. Okay, we have an error here. Let me quickly fix it. All right, so the error is fixed. It was the problem was here in this file. So I updated the generation schemas. I actually added the DTS type definition for these exports, and now this file, this load config, doesn't show errors anymore. So we can try to build the client again and see if it works or not. Alright, it's built. Now let's try running it. Docker, well, first test client. Alright, so now let's test the client. We have built the client. Now let's test it. Good. Test passed. Good. And now let's run the client. Alright, so we see that the startup has failed in the running Docker container in the production application. So let's try to fix this. Let's ask what ChatGPT thinks about that, and let's give it the config JSON, the main init. Let's also give it load config. Let's also give it package, workspace, tsconfig, void config, and let's also give it the Docker file. This is important. And let's also give it the Docker ignore. Let's give it to ChatGPT. Alright, so ChatGPT says, and it's absolutely right about that, it says that config JSON is not served by the server, which is clear that the server doesn't find the config JSON, and it suggests moving the config JSON to the public directory to move the file to this directory. But I think that we can do that during the Docker build phase. Can we copy the config to add the Docker build phase? Okay, so ChatGPT agrees that we can simply copy config JSON to the final destination. So let's just update this Docker file, then rebuild the image. Docker files here. Okay, then we should stop the container, and let's rebuild the client. Alright, so it's built. Let's run it again. Docker run client. Yeah, now it works, and we also see that our environment variables show that we're in production now. So the mode production, development false, prod true. Okay, so that will be all for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next episode, where we will continue building the application and following our roadmap.